Yeah, no, I appreciate this time. The podcast is a really great space for people to really engage with these topics. We pull in people from the audience, we encourage them to share with us. And so we're going to do that later on. In this session, we're going to interview Jacqueline, we're going to share our questions, and then we're going to hope that you can engage, with us and share your thoughts, share your perspectives, and this is a safe space for us to share differing perspectives, different points of view, but at the same time, thrive with each other, connect with each other, and educate one another as we're talking, as we're building these connections, and hopefully spreading that knowledge out to our community. So yeah, we're gonna start off with Jacqueline here, and she's gonna maybe give us a little bit more of a bio, a little bit more of a background, anything you want to share before we hit you with these questions about imagination, radical imagination for that. So yeah.
Yes, thank you. First, before I speak of myself, I want to give honor and homage to the ancestors, my ancestors, the ancestors of the land, the elders, and those of us who are in the soil, in the land, cultivating food, practicing indigenous land cultivation and earth stewardship and things of that nature. So I want to make sure I pay homage to those who came before me, those who are with me, and those who are coming after me. So I want to make sure I give thanks and gratitude and much love. So my name is Jacqueline Smith, also known as Abena. That's my African name, my West African name. I am a Chicago native, Southside born and bred. I am the great granddaughter of a Mississippi sharecropper, and I am also a descendant of many Louisiana folk as well who lived on land as well. And I'm here in Chicago, and I'm an urban homesteader, urban farmer, urban grower here in Chicago, and I'm all about food justice, practicing indigenous food cultivation, empowering people to grow and secure and design their own food, especially those of us who are Black and Brown people, those of us who are land people, indigenous land people. And I am also faculty, and I'm also an instructor for the Permaculture Institute of Chicago. Right now, we're just doing a lot of virtual classes, but the classes are about teaching and instructing permaculture, like the theories of permaculture, but also giving recognition to what permaculture really is as far as the ethics and the principles are concerned, and acknowledging the indigeneity that is the essence of permaculture as well. So although there are a lot of people who follow Bill Mollison's approach, we do acknowledge Bill Mollison, but we also give credit to those who practiced these things before there was a Bill Mollison, before he studied what we as land and Black and Brown people did, cultivating food and taking care of the water, acknowledging the organisms and life that is in the land, in the soil, things of that nature. So that's a bit of background about me. I'm ready for the questions when you are. If there's anything else you want me to share, let me know. I'm ready.
Nah, let's dive into it, because I'm excited and I know everyone's excited. And this whole theme of reimagination is so deep, and it's coming at such a pivotal time, not only in Chicago, but in our country and really in our world, as we're faced with some of the challenges that climate change is just beginning to really start throwing at us, right? How Kayla mentioned she's in Texas. And also thank you so much for acknowledging the ancestors, because that is, everything. We wouldn't be here without them today, and part of our imagination. We couldn't imagine without them having put in that work. So typically with every episode, we begin with a definition, right? Not just Merriam-Webster and them, Oxford and them, that's cool, but how would you define imagination and radical imagination? What does that mean to you?
When I think of the word imagination, I actually see it because I'm a visual person. I'm a kinetic learner as well. So when I look at the word imagination, I see the word image and nation. So my thought, what I believe it to be is that whatever you just take this idea, whatever personal, an image that is of personal significance, a vision, a very powerful vision, and you just take it and you make it your nation with all the efforts and the energy, mindful efforts and energy that you want to use to or want to do to make it what you want it to be and make it for your greater good or for the greater good. So just like an image, a vision of yours, and you just take it and you make it your nation. Radical imagination is taking that idea and or that image and thought and being bold and being extreme to overcome obstacles and insecurities and doubts and put it into action. So you put in the nation into action. So just being like radical with it. Just, I don't want to use the word within the context, but just to be extreme. Because, and a lot of people say, oh, it's like going out of the norm. That's that's the definition that we're accustomed to speaking to. But really, it's about being bold and being extreme with your own self, with your own ideas, because we get all this information coming at us that tells us that we're not, or that we shouldn't be, or that we never were. And so for us to take our ideas and actually put them in motion and put them in action and actually do them and manifest to have it to make it our world, our nation, our thing. I think that's what radical imagination is.
Yeah, you definitely poked the button when you said insecurity. I'm like, oh, because we all have them.
We all have them. We all have them. Absolutely.
No, I love that definition of imagination. To me, it was imaginative, how you came up with that, because I've never thought of imagination, that own way of creating your own nation, creating your own world and universe. And that's what people do, writers, creators, they create their own nations, their own worlds, just from their thoughts, just from, what's going around in their head. So I love how you did that. And then you brought it back to, making radical change or radical improvement. So I love that. To move forward, to kind of bounce off of that, how do you express your imagination, and what does it look like when you express it? That full expression. Are you writer, grower? How does that come out into the world?
I take it to the soil.
Yeah.
To me, my imagination, I write it down and make it plain. Right. And then I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm very detail oriented. I'm more like a type A kind of person. So I'll write it down. I have pages of journals of ideas that I've written about for like years, decades even. So I write it down, and then I'll just say it out loud. I'll say it to the universe. I'll say it to my ancestors. And then I'll sit on it for a little while, and then I'm just ready to go. I'm ready to do it. So as a grower, every season, as a farmer, you kind of are already, once you're in season, at least for me, once I'm in season, I'm already thinking about the next season, right? Because I've already planned the season I'm in right now. But my plans change all the time. I start out with a design in the beginning. The design looks nothing like I initially thought it was going to be by the time the end of the season gets here. So it's, for me, it's about just taking it to the soil. That's how I express it. My hands are like vital. I wear an ankh on my hands to protect my hands, because my hands are powerful. I have to be in the soil. I have to plant seeds. I have to take care of chickens. I crochet. I bake. I write. My hands are vital. I pray. I meditate. I need my hands. So my hands, I'm just ready to go. Me expressing my imagination, I have a thought about like a crop I want to grow or something I want to improve on from last season. And then I go for it. I'm very like direct when I do the work. So, and a lot of times, because this is my lifestyle, this is my life, this is what I do, this is what I think about, this is what I eat, I pray, I meditate on, I drink it, I do it all with this. So it's constantly in my frontal lobe. I'm constantly thinking about what I want to do in the earth and how I want to make sure it's for the greater good, especially my greater good, because the work that I do in the earth is for my health, first and foremost. But then also I have village and I have community and I have family and I got village babies that I'm also accountable for, that I also help take care of. So my imagination is soil caked hands and dirty coveralls and post-it notes all over the place, and conversations with my dad in the morning about what I want to do or what I'm putting together, and getting feedback from him and his wisdom and his thoughts on what I'm doing, because he's my dad and that's my ace, and he's an elder, so I'm going to my elder every day to let him know what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And then I take his input, and then, it's a guide for me as well. So that's what it looks like for me.
So I love that. And that's one thing I truly appreciate about having these type of conversations with women of color, right? Specifically because, when we were planning for this, Octavia Butler came up, and me and Kayla are earthseed babies, okay? Like, I'm about to get a tattoo right here so people know when you see me, you're looking at earthseed, But one thing that really stood out about that book was her ability, the empathic ability. She felt if someone got hit, or if she saw someone go through pain in front of her, she felt that too. Yes, Parable of the Sower, y'all. If you have not read that book,
absolutely.
I need y'all to get that so we can dive deeper. But it's so beautiful how you also see that agency in your body and how it connects you to the soil, which connects you to the environment. So can you just build a little bit more on how your imagination interacts with your environment? And what does that look like? Let's dive deeper into that process for you.
It's funny you mentioned being empathic, because I'm empathic too. I can sometimes, I have learned the ag industry. There's a difference between the industry and actually doing this earth stewardship. It's two totally different things. Okay. So the ag industry is very capitalistic, it's profit, it's money, it's domination over people, over land, over resources, over animals. That's what ag is about. Okay. But then when you're doing land stewardship, you are connecting with the earth, you're connecting with spirit, you're connecting with people, you're connecting with organisms. There's so many things. It's like very multi-dimensional, I'll say. So I go off of gut now. I don't really apply too many of the things I learned in high school and in college about the ag world. I threw it out the window because it doesn't apply. It doesn't apply to what we as Black and Brown people are dealing with within the food, industrial food system, how we are not able to get access to fresh food on a daily basis, how we are not able to decide and make our own choices about what we eat. We can't even get food of our own culture and of our tradition. And if we do, it's not easily accessible, especially for us here in the States. People, those of us who are in the diaspora and other parts of the world, there may be easier access. But so I go off of gut intuition a lot of times these days. And so when I interact, my imagination interacts with my environment. So my environment is my community. My environment is my backyard. My environment is my front yard. So I am constantly sitting and just observing, or I'm looking out the window during the winter months and just like, when can I get ready? It's also usually before I start every season, I am asking permission for if I can cultivate. This land isn't mine. I'm a guest. So I can't just be like, okay, I want to grow some sweet potatoes and get going. I have an obligation to ask for permission if I can. And so I'm very intentional about that. And I also bless my seeds. So I'll go outside, bless my seeds. That's me interacting with my environment. Me sitting outside and paying attention to the way the wind moves. Me looking at the birds and the squirrels. Me looking at the people, the traffic in the alley. I can see my alley, and I'm looking at foot traffic. That's part of my environment as well. And in my imagination, a lot of times I think of some way to improve what I've already done. So I'll sit outside and I'm just like, okay, well, I can do this better. I can take this out. I can add this. I can expand, and I also think about how my body feels, because my body, if I don't feel well, nothing goes down, nothing happens anyway. So I just kind of sit and I pay attention to how I feel physically. And, if something doesn't sit right, my gut will let me know if I shouldn't do it. If I thought about it and it doesn't make me tingle inside, I don't need to do it, and then also my body is my environment. Your body is your environment. It's with you all the time, so you have to pay attention to what your body says. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I want sweet potatoes so bad. So, I'm like, okay, well, this season I'm gonna go hard on the sweet potatoes. I'm gonna make sure I have way more sweet potato slips ready to go to put in the soil. Also paying attention to what my body responds to, what I'm ingesting, what am I putting in that makes me feel better. If I can grow it, if I can eat it and I can grow it, it's a done deal. I'm gonna get it, So that's me having my imagination in my environment as well. And then also interacting with my people, my community, fellow farmers, my family, my elders. They have great input in what I do. Whether they receive what, some of the products or the items that I've cultivated, or any of the things that I've made as a result of me growing a crop or growing certain foods, they receive that. Or I receive things from them. If I don't have it, they got my back. If I ask for it, I can get it. Or if they ask of me and I have it, I can provide that for them. So my people are also my environment as well, because there's power in the people. And so I get a lot of strength from those who support what I do. And I get a lot of strength supporting other people, because other people in the community who are also in the land and also working. We all have our own niche. We all have our own thing that we are great at. And I think it's a powerful thing to acknowledge what someone else is doing, and allowing and designating them to do something that you can't do. If I got a skill and someone sees I can do it, then that's great. If I see there's a lot of things I don't know how to do, I'm still, especially when it comes to farming and stuff, I don't know everything. I don't want to know everything. If I know everything, I don't need to be here anymore. I'm done. I'm out. It's time to transition. I'm still here. I'm still learning. So the people are also part of my environment as well. And I interact with them and I talk with them and I share with them as well. So.
Yeah, I love how you expanded that, traditional definition of what environment is, whether it's the physical surroundings of you, nature or urban settings, or it's your physical body, or as you mentioned, your ancestors, which really made me think of this topic of Afrofuturism that, was brought up in the Parable Sower. I know a lot of people got excited about that. So I think that's a topic I feel like we can bring back when we have that dialogue, is Afrofuturism, and how looking back, how talking to your ancestors, how looking at other cultures can bring you to a better future, a more holistic future, more dynamic, a radical future, you might add. So I really want people to hold on to that, as we move forward and think about how that reflects on. Definitely read Parable of a Sower. You've seen a little bit of that taste in Octavia Butler's creative mind. But you mentioned a little bit before of those limitations on imagination. You kind of brushed on it. So I want to dive into that a little bit. What are those limitations on your imagination? Or maybe it's limitations you've overcome. And if so, give us some seeds of knowledge, give us advice of how to do that. But what, the limitations you see on the world in regards to imagination, in regards to creating a better future, and, tips of how you've overcome that, or things you might still be struggling with in that regard.
Yes. I am immune compromised for the last 30 years. I have type 1 juvenile onset diabetes, and I also have something called gastroparesis. And I've had diabetes for over 30 years, and I've had gastroparesis. It'll be 21 years this June. So I'm very restricted in what I can eat, right? I cannot eat legumes. I can't eat corn. I have to eat a low fiber diet. There are pharmaceutical drugs I cannot take because they will kill me, literally kill me. So I struggled. It was a lot of trial and error. I have been hospitalized more times than I want to tell you. I have been sick. I have had specialists come at me and tell me I should do this. I need to take this drug, and it didn't sit right with me. And so I decided to take matters into my own hands because I did not want to be limited to big pharma. I did not want to be limited to the European medical industry. I did not want to be limited in my ability to take care of myself. So there have been times when I've sat in the hospital after having a flare up, and my imagination is going, like, I want to do this when I get back home. I want to do that. I got to do that. I got to finish that project. Like, I'm going all the time. So I decided that I would just homestead. A friend of mine, my partner, was like, why don't you just homestead? You do it anyway. Just do it full time. Because I was so stressed. My body was stressed. I had to quit my job. I was so sick all the time. I was stressing out, and it wasn't helping me. And I couldn't do the gardening that I wanted to do. I was thinking about gardening more than I was thinking about being at work. And that's when I knew I needed to be in the land a lot more. So I have a homestead. I have 8 chickens. I get fresh eggs. Well, I'm not getting fresh eggs now, but in the spring I'll get fresh eggs again. My chickens took a break during the winter. I grow my own greens, my own tomatoes. I grow my own medicinal herbs, and I can preserve them the way I need to. I can cook. I cook my meals every day. Like during the growing season, 90% of the food I eat comes out of the ground. Then the other 10% is just, stuff I got to get from the grocery store, like almond milk, coconut oil, things, condiments, things like that. And during the off season, I'm maybe like 75 to 80% of my food is coming out the ground because I preserved what I grew during the growing season. So that's medicine. That's my medicine that I grow myself. So there were other entities that were trying to limit me, and I did give in because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what this disease meant. I didn't know how to handle it. It was really hard. It was rough. I mean, it was rough. It affected me, it affected my family. And so now I have better control over it. Not every day is perfect, but I have better days than, not so good days. So I took matters into my own hands despite the limitations of what other people were putting on me. And it was all about what I wanted and what I can envision for myself. And so I know there are a lot of people out there who are dealing with being immune compromised. There are a lot of people out there who are dealing with health challenges and they don't know what to do. It all goes back to the earth. It's all about imagining, knowing what you want, and then getting that knowledge on how to get what you want and how you want to get it and how you want to do it. So you have your own power, not this illusion of power where you're ruling, you're dominating, you bossing people around and stuff like that. It's about your own power, what you have control over, what you can do. So when I go outside and I'm ready to just like go, harvest or, turn the compost or what have you, I remember why I do it. Because there's some days where I'm like, I'm tired, I don't want to do it. My body won't let me. I have those days too, and that's to be expected. And anybody who homesteads a farm is going to do it, whether they have, a health condition or not. We all go through it across the board. I have yet to meet somebody who's in the farming or into homesteading that has their days where they don't want to do it. And if you don't have those days, you're not doing it right. That's what I say. You should be challenged. It should be a challenge, but it should also sustain you. It's about preparation. It's about being resilient. So when you get hit, your bounce back is a lot faster than somebody who is not prepared, who doesn't know how to grow their food, who doesn't know the powerful assets of having medicinal herbs and drinking teas and tonics and tinctures and things of that nature. So I would say that's what it is for me. I don't like the word no. I don't like people telling me no. I don't like people putting their insecurities and their narrow-mindedness on me. And if you tell me no, I'm gonna show you something else. I'm gonna show you wrong. I don't like no. And no is okay. No is good. No is actually healthy as well. No is healthy too. But when I know I can do it and I've already done it, and you tell me I can't.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. As Black women, as a Black woman, and you talked about people putting insecurities or putting ideas on you, as a Black woman in the growing field, has that been a limitation, or has that been, something that people have tried to, take away from you because of your identity?
I don't, well, yeah, in some cases, yes. I have a master's degree in public service, and some people come to me and like, well, why are you wearing coveralls? Why aren't you sitting at a nonprofit organization? I've done all that. I did I did corporate America for 10 years. I worked in education. I worked in nonprofit. I worked in the Chicago public school system. I've lived that life, and I'm not built for that. I'm glad I learned what I learned. I'm glad I met the people that I did on that journey, but it doesn't suit me now. So I just want to go back to the earth and do what my ancestors did. It's cool. It's great. When I was growing up, I did not think I was going to be living this life. I really didn't. My mother forced me to go to the high school I went to. I went to the Chicago High School for Agricultural Sciences, and I went kicking and screaming. And now I can admit that she was right. And I'm glad she sent me. It took me a long time to admit that and tell her that, because it has changed my world. And even if I did not attend that high school, my ancestors would have found a way for me to get into this kind of stuff. I just don't see how I cannot be in this situation and be in this life that I'm living. Now I can't see myself doing it, not doing it. I cannot see me not doing this in the next 30, 40 years.
The beautiful thing is that with earth cultivation and earthwork, you add years to your life by being in the soil. You know what I'm saying? So you literally, you will be doing this for the next 30, 40 years.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
Absolutely. My great grandmother, Mississippi, she lived to be almost 100. My great grandmother on my mother's side almost lived to be 100. Her mother almost lived to be 100. My great aunt right now, she'll be 91 next month. So yes, it builds character. It shows you strength that you didn't know you had. And it allows you to be humble. Because you really, like working with nature, you don't have control. There's so many variables that are totally out of your control. The weather, um, you know, the animals, you don't have control over the animals. You know, you don't have control over the wind. You don't have control over the celestial beings. You don't have control over the sun, the stars, the moon. You don't have control over any of that. You're not necessary. I don't like to think I'm at the mercy of those entities. I like to think of myself as working with those entities. So if it's going to rain all day, okay, so be it. I don't know why. Nature knows better than I do. When we had all that snow, all that snow that came earlier this month, I just looked out the window. I said, okay, well, I'm grateful because this is like a good mulch for the soil. So it'll be ready to go in the spring. Mother Nature put it out there. I'm not gonna fuss with her. She knows what she's doing. She put it out there. She knows what to do with it. You know, after your time, yeah.
No, that I mean, so I'm in school at Tuskegee right now, and so when I went down to Alabama, but before then, I went to Piney Woods, right, in Mississippi. So I've kind of been out of Chicago for like the past 7, 8 years until like maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. And when I came back, I have almost like made it my life's mission to not be in Chicago during the winter time. I am just like, and this is about my second winter back, and this winter was way more easy than the first winter. And I know a lot of people, like some limitations for people are seasonal depression. Like that's something that I deal with, but it's really inspiring and beautiful to me how people who are so in tune and outside with the earth, they don't necessarily see the winter as, oh, I can't do this. Oh, it's cold. It's like, this is a hibernation time. This is a planning time. This is deep manifestation. Like it's a full moon today.
Yes.
You know, so these are times to really be in tune and to be able to sync yourself up with your environment, sync yourself up with nature, because we live in a time where we're constantly looking at the watch. We're constantly watching the clock, and we want time to bend to our will, like you said. And it's an illusion of control in a lot of ways. And it doesn't benefit us, especially as, you know, Black Indigenous people, because that's not how we get down. This is not what we have done. So.
Absolutely. We're in dormancy. If we are made of, as people, especially as melanated people, we are made of the same things as the earth is made of. We are made of nitrogen and carbon and oxygen and calcium. We're made of all of those things. And all of those things are in the root of the trees. And the trees go into dormancy, right? And so we need to be in dormancy too. You know, what's outside? I mean, especially in Chicago, if you're living in Chicago, exactly. Thank you. Someone said, you know, you sync yourself up with nature seasons. You know, it's cyclical. You know, society is, you know, it's this way, but it's cyclical. You know, we have lunar cycles. We have seasons throughout the year. We have our own life cycles where, you know, as women, we birth children, you know, that's a whole cycle within itself. We're circular, you know. It's about cycles. It's not about hierarchy. It's about cycles. And nature shows us that, you know. And the thing you have to remember is that, you know, my daddy says, he tells me all the time, you be out in the tonight, you be okay in a minute. Give it time. So every time a tree goes into dormancy, it'll lose, you know, in the fall, it'll lose its leaves and branches are bare, it snows or it gets really cold. It's resting so it can get more branches by the spring. So to have way more leaves when it's warm again, you know, and the tree gets bigger because it rested. It took its time. It did what it was supposed to do. You know, we don't fall in line with that now in the Western world.
I think,
there's so many distractions that we're not in alignment with nature cycles, you know. So wintertime, you rest. You don't do nothing. And it's okay. It's okay. Like,
Now that part, it's okay.
It's okay. It is all right. My great grandmother, her name was Callie Glover. And I remember my dad spent the first 6 years of his life with her on the farm before, because they were part of the Great Migration, the second wave of the migration, from Black people coming from the South to the North. And so he said that she did not speak only when she had to. She was very quiet. She only spoke when she needed to. The rule of the house was that you did not work on Sundays. She would get upset with you if you worked on Sunday. You rested on Sunday. You didn't do anything. You didn't go to church. You didn't do no farm work. You didn't do nothing. You rested. She would get upset if you tried to do work on Sunday. And she rested because she knew she had a long week ahead of her of taking care of the land and taking care of the children. So she rested on Sunday. Everybody had to rest on Sunday. And I have to remind my daddy, like, dude, what you doing picking up a job on Sunday? I said, remember what Big Mama told you? Like, remember what she used to, like I have to bring it back to him. Like, no, you need to rest. You need to rest. And that's part of the work too. Like, it's not about breaking your back all day, every day. You can't give from an empty cup. And if you're not well, you cannot do the work. You cannot take care of yourself, and then therefore you can't take care of others. There's a thing in the permaculture called the Prime Directive, which means that you are responsible for your own existence and that of your children. And then everything else will fall into place. You take care of you, then everything else will fall into place. And we're not in a race. We think we're always in a race and we have to do this. But if you are connected with nature and you pay attention to the cycles and the seasons, things fall into place. And then sometimes you realize there was some things that you really didn't need. You thought you wanted them, but you really didn't need them. And it was for the better. Actually blessed you not to get that particular thing or be in that certain situation, or you were protected from an entity that could do more harm than good. So sometimes it's okay to go slow. It's okay to rest. And there's nothing wrong with we've been guilted into thinking it's wrong if we just want to have a lazy day. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to mention it's like that culture of capitalism and consumerism,
yes.
that constant production, which we even see in agriculture. You're getting fruit that are out of season all year long. This type of give, take from the land, and not giving back, and not cycles of rest. So
absolutely.
Even as Black people in the United States, it hurts me to see in some ways that we adopt those type of cultures. We lean to Black capitalism, we lean to overproduction to be our heroes. But at the end of the day, like you're saying, Jacqueline, those things aren't going to fulfill us. Those aren't going to help us. Like that notion of the prime derivative, you said,
prime directive.
Prime directive, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're putting energy into getting that money, investing in the stock market, getting those small quick wins when you can, just so to compete with the white man's of success, then that's when you're not filling your cup. That's not when you're actually connecting with nature. So that's kind of one of the limitations that I see, in our society. And I'm hoping that conversations like this can elevate and encourage imagination, encourage us to go back to, those indigenous and primal and holistic ways of living with, in conjunction with nature.
Absolutely. Because, people of color who are, when we steward the land, there are things that we understand. The thing is, we respect and honor the land and all that dwells within it. Okay. We don't exploit the land. We practice peaceful acts on it. First Native people, rain dances, acknowledging spirit animals and things of that nature. That's part of being peaceful on the land. The other thing is that we replace what's been removed. There's a group of people in Mexico, I can't think of the name of the state, but I saw this documentary about them, and the butterflies, you know, they migrate from Mexico to Canada and back, right? And so there's a space, there's land in Mexico that these people dwell on, and the government, they own the land. Like it's their land. They're indigenous people. They are native, and they practice on it. And so the government of the state that they live in came and they chopped down trees on the forest of their land for lumber. They did not go and fight with the government. Because these trees were where the butterflies were living in, you know, and it was like their haven until they had to migrate again. So they replaced the trees and they planted new trees. So all that was taken down, they replaced it. Yes, thank you. Thank you. From the 18. I appreciate you. Yes, you're absolutely.
Michoaki.
Yes. Those are the people. Ashe. Thank you so much for that. I received that.
And then Binu also said that they've been reduced from millions to 30,000 a season. So thank you for that comment. Those details.
Absolutely. So what's been taken, you know, if we've taken it, we'll replace it. And even if we didn't take it, we'll still replace it. You know. Awesome. And then the other thing is that understand that caring for the land is caring for self. There's this thing called in la catch, means you are my other me. If I'm hurting, you're hurting. If you know, it's a reciprocity thing. My partner taught me that. I did not know that. It's called in la catch. So, same thing with the earth. I mean, what we living in right now during this pandemic is a prime example. She not well, we not well. And this state that we're living in right now, we done got grounded and we've been putting time out and sat in the corner because we done made the earth so upset. We have killed the Great Barrier Reef. Amazon forest is burnt down. Endangered species, we're poaching animals.
Yeah, you know,
she's not happy with us. She's not happy with us. And divine spirit has moved, and it is moving on our behalf in the sense of allowing us to sit down where we cannot interact with each other. We got to sit with self, and we have to reflect and think about what we've done. And what I believe, this is my thought, this is my belief, that we can sit down and reflect and be with ourselves and think about how we can improve. How can we remediate? How can we be better to ourselves? And how can we take our power back? You know?
I want to read this quote that Benu put in the chat from the parable of the sower, where it says, all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. And the only lasting truth is change. God is change. And so in the spirit of reciprocity, understanding that that's part of reciprocity is exchange. You know what I'm saying? You can't have reciprocity without an exchange. And, you know, you got me looking at words, just looking at them now. So I'm like, exchange, like change is in that. Like you cannot engage with something and reciprocate energy with something without being changed by the thing that you're changing. It is just a beautiful perspective. And I mean, again, my intersectional people, like this is just a thing that indigenous people of all cultures, it doesn't matter where you go, this ideology rooted in reciprocity is something that transcends nations, it transcends borders, it transcends times and eras. And so as we think about rest, right, even being able to sit down and rest, like when you work out and you're building your muscles have to rip, but in that process they're changing. You know what I mean? And you can't really actually see your ripness. Like Camper K over here is like super swole. This is my body goals, right? But even in doing so, right, there are periods where you have to rest so that the beauty of you can't see the beauty of your body if you're constantly beating it up with exercise, right? So even that balance, right? And I think, we definitely touched on that the capitalist limitation of not allowing yourself to rest. So it's almost to the point of where capitalism doesn't have to tell you to not rest. You'll tell yourself to not rest, and not even thinking about, as you drive down the street, how many commercials do you hear on the radio? How many billboards do you see when you drive down the street? If your eyes and your ears are the windows to your soul, how much are you intaking and how much are you actually digesting? Because I have a friend, she said this quote that many consume and few digest. So part of that digestion, you know what I'm saying, is rest, and how important that is. And that, when we talk about radical imagination, I really think about, Adrienne Marie Brown with pleasure activism. You know what I'm saying? Like being radical in that, loving yourself so much that it's like no one can oppress you because you're free in your brain. Like these are, it's getting hot, y'all. It's getting hot.
Yes.
Kelly, we got one more question, and then I definitely want to open. I want to let people remind everyone to engage in the chat. So, what does imagination mean to you? What does radical imagination mean to you? Do you see limitations to your imagination, and how do you overcome them? So we're gonna get to that open piece. We're coming up to that, but Kayla, I'm gonna let you take over that last question there.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I've already seen people engaging in the chat, so I know we have some well-educated, well-inspired, imaginative people in our group, so I'm excited to hear from them. But before we transition to that, Jacqueline, I just would like to hear from you. What do you see the role of imagination in 2020 and beyond? So like, how can we leverage our imagination for change, for growth, for new systems? Like, how does the role of imagination play in that system of change?
That's a loaded question.
I know. Take us where you want to go. Take us where you want to go.
Yeah, it's deliberative. That's what it is.
Yeah. I think it's important for us as people to not dismiss that dream that we had that night. Let us not dismiss what that elder told us. Let us not dismiss our gut instincts, because my dad would tell me, your worst case scenarios never really come to pass. Not really. 9 times out of 10, the bad stuff you think of is not going to happen. The other 10%, you prepare for it. You just prep just in case, but you don't dwell on it. Don't sit on it, And we as people, and especially Black people, we've been guilted into not thinking for ourselves and having our ideas dismissed and telling us that we're not good enough because we're melanated, or because our hair is nappy, or because we come from the city, or because we come from another country. We speak another language. We talk like we white. What is that? And that limits our imagination. That eliminates our ability to go within ourselves and discover ourselves and understand what we are made of, who we belong to, whose we are. It's a matter of, I think, going into 2020 and beyond, I think it's really just about just continue and dismiss what doesn't go in alignment with what you want to do. And I think it's also important that we open our mouths. Closed mouths don't get fed. We're in situations right now because information was hoarded. We hoarded information. We kept stuff from each other. It was a divide and conquer move from, those non-melanated people who took our information and coded it up and told us that we weren't worthy to know our own stuff. And so now we're more in communication. I'm able to decode things now. I'm able to understand certain things and words and language and practices that I realized that I thought were strictly white and European. It was us. It was mine. You know, I think it's important for us to share and talk to each other because that's how we know we're in sync. That's how we know we can help one another. That's how we know that you are my other me, that we have a connection, that just because I don't look like you doesn't mean that you're not my sister, you're not my brother, you're not my relative. The plants outside, they are our relatives because we are made of the same things that they are made of. They're a relative. And we are so disconnected from that. And somebody talked to me and told me that. They just opened their mouths and like, they are our relatives too. And I didn't know that. And so because somebody talked to me and shared that with me, I'm very intentional about that now. And I would talk to my plant. I talk to my plants all the time anyway, just to be nice and exchange that carbon dioxide for the photosynthesis process, of course. But it's because you're my family. So I think it's important to, like not dismiss our thoughts. The craziest things that, we think of actually can come to pass. I mean, just things that we take advantage of, somebody thought of, the traffic light, Madam C.J. Walker's hair products. I mean, baking. I just made fudge one day. I was like, oh, I want to make some fudge. I wonder if I can do it. And now I'm making cakes for people. That's part of my homestead. I was like, I'm just going to try it. I think it's a great idea. Let me just try it. And then I posted it on Facebook. I'm like, oh, are you selling? Like, oh, okay, great. So I think 2020, like starting now and beyond 2021, I'm sorry. I think talking and sharing is so vital. It's so important. It's so necessary. And that's what's always been done. That's what our ancestors did. The town my dad comes from, he said during the Great Depression, they didn't know no different. They didn't even know what was going on. During the 1918 Spanish flu, they didn't know what was going on because they stayed put. Everybody shared. They communicated. If you didn't have nobody watching your baby, Miss So-and-so will watch your baby for you. They shared crops, they shared seed, they shared land, they shared houses. They didn't know no different. That's what it was. There was no monetary transactions for you doing such and such for somebody. There was bartering. You exchanged your services or you exchanged your items with somebody else. And that was the deal. No questions asked, no more, no less. And they communicated and they said what they needed. If somebody was hurting, if somebody was sick, there was somebody on their way to send some food to your house or sit with you or help you take care of your house or help you take care of your land or help take care of your animals on your land or on the land that you lived on. That's why we're here, because people did that. So communicating and just not dismissing our crazy thoughts, because
I really like that.
The biggest dreams seem the craziest until they happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's this lady on Instagram that I follow, the People's Oracle, and she looks at astrology, but she looks at sidereal astrology. So she's taking it a step further. So to her, it's not a full moon in Virgo. Whatever sign is right before Virgo is that full moon. So she has done some research and kind of cracked some things, but it's just really interesting to me how she builds these connections and like how especially when it comes down to like Black people and Indigenous people and like giving ourselves the room to share, like even struggle, right? I was thinking about this the other day, how sometimes we try to monopolize struggle and make it like, oh, no one struggled like we struggled, so no one can struggle how we struggle, and we're the baby, the picture, like we're the face of struggle. And sometimes it, that, like you said, that can be internalized and it can cause more harm than good. So right now, when we're looking at General Iron, right, and what's going on the east side of Chicago, east side of Chicago it's not just Black people, you know what I'm saying? It's people from all over the world. You could go to La Fruteria on Commercial and see people from 8 different countries, 9 to 10 different countries, just by walking through.
Belize, Puerto Rico, Mexico,
exactly,
Nigeria, they're there. And the thing about it is, like, you know, I was watching Henry Louis Gates the other night, and he was talking about he was doing this documentary series about Black people in Latin countries and how this whole divide and conquer thing, because of land and the resources on the land, we as people are resources. We are sources, right? And so this whole colorism, this construct of racism and things of that nature, when it boils down to, we all the same people. We're the same people. If you look at our food, peas and, like, okay, so we do black-eyed peas and rice, beans and rice. That's what we do. You go to Puerto Rico, it's peas and rice, right? In Mexico is frijoles and rice. Calites, callaloo, and collard greens, all the same thing. We just call it different things. It's the same food. It's a green.
Yeah.
Cassava, yams, sweet potatoes, all the same thing. If you look at our food, our cuisine, in which we break bread and we sit together at a table and we eat and we share, you understand the connection that we really are the same people. If you look at Santeria, Ifa, Lukeme, that's all the same. Same deities, had to change a few names because we were going to get killed if we practiced honoring our guys, our deities. When Catholicism comes in, we have to practice Christianity. We changed the names and gave them names to the saints, right? But if you go back and trace and you pay attention and you understand, Obatala, I don't know if anybody knows the Orishas, but Obatala is Jesus in some cases. But it's been coded up so much and misinterpreted and things like that. And then, things that we do on the land. Same thing.
It's great because I feel like a lot of the things you're mentioning are ways that us as Black people express ourselves, melanated people, express ourselves, express our imagination. So I feel like it's coming full circle once again.
Yeah.
That mentioned music. You go to Latin America, you hear the African drums, this goes with
Bembe, conga, all of that. Yes.
So I love this conversation, but I really want to be able to pull in some people if they're comfortable, if they feel comfortable speaking themselves, or even turn on their camera. I know we have a really educated group, a really excited group. So if there's anyone that wants to join, especially in the questions of, how do you express your imagination? How does that go into the environment? And then what are those limits?
Yes. I saw Benil just made a comment that said, throughout history, conquered civilizations just assimilate and change what they need to adapt and survive. And the lady I mentioned earlier, the People's Oracle, one thing that she talks about is that survival, especially in lieu of coronavirus, right, where everyone's kind of separated, we're all super individualists, but she was just mentioning how survival is a group effort. It's not about individual survival list or survivalhood, because when you zoom all the way out, right, if we really want to talk about climate change, we all on Earth, and you mentioned that even when you talked about you had mentioned like the scale of your environment. I love how you went from your own personal body, like the environment of your body, to the environment of your home, to your community, to your city, then to your world. And part of my Afrofuturist self is like, man, in the future when we on spaceships, time won't even be a thing because you live on Mars. I just gotta get in my spaceship car and come visit you on Earth, so these constructs that are created to do whatever they're meant to do, they can be very limiting in some ways. And it's so beautiful and a breath of fresh air to hear. And this is me buying some time while y'all get yourselves ready to come off mute.
But I was going to read one comment from the chat real quick, because we had some good comments. But from Sam, she said, that's a beautiful imagine in nation to learn from the wisdom and culture of earlier generations and bring it to today and tomorrow. She said, thank you, Jacqueline. There's so much wisdom in this conversation. Someone else said their partner and them were discussing last night, talking about the values that they share and how happy they feel. They're wondering how it must feel to be with people who are in direct opposition to this feel. Are they filled with anger? Are they mad all the time? So I guess, people are feeling good feelings, feeling expressive in this conversation. So I love that y'all are sharing in the chat. There's a lot of information in the chat.
Marie Brown, she's awesome people, yes. And the other thing to remember though too is energy. Energy is not destroyed. It cannot disappear. It will turn into something else. So I know you and I, Kendall and Kyla, we had talked the other night, and we were talking about being a Sankofa, and how I believe that there are those of us who are the Sankofa babies. How ancestors picked us, or, I don't want to say picked us, but ancestors decided that they wanted us to, and they used us to bring their stuff back. We claim that, a lot of people say, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. They're my wildest dreams because they give me vision and they give me reassurance. Because last year, this time, I sat at my ancestors' altar and they were like, all that stuff that you were doing, all that farming and all the tinctures you done made, you ready, you can rest, you good, you're prepped, you're ready to go. I have not had to go without for a year. I prepared all my food, I grew all my food. Now I understand why. And now I understand why my mama sent me to the high school I went to. And now I understand why I'm with the people, and I know the people that I know, because it prepared me for now. And the struggle and the misunderstanding, I receive it and I accept it now, because it is built, it made me what I am, and it's humbled me. So now I understand, like, I went through what I went through and how I had to go through it. It makes sense now. Clarity, being clairvoyant, it makes sense. So, being the Sankofa, meaning, we reach back so we can go forward. I'm kind of synopsing, that's kind of a synopsis, but
there's a couple questions in the chat. Someone said, what do you suggest, or what practices do you suggest for connecting with your intuition to cultivate more self-trust and love? And then someone also said, how has this influenced your medicinal herbs you grow?
As far as the intuition part of that question, sometimes you just got to sit, be quiet, just shut up. Just don't say nothing. So my daddy said, don't touch anything. That's what my dad says, don't touch anything. Just leave it alone. Pay attention, because we get so distracted and we have static and all this stuff coming at us and stuff. And we're not paying attention to self. Sometimes we just sit down and be quiet. And the first thing that you hear, whether it be your voice or another person's voice, you pay attention to that. And whatever word that is, or whatever statement, or even if it's a vision, ask yourself, how does that apply to me? Like, what is that about? But just being quiet, just being by yourself and just shutting up is a good way to change. Whatever you feel, whether it be good or bad, you acknowledge it and you process, like, why do I feel this way? What's triggering me? Is it something that I did? Do I need to be accountable for this? Or is it something somebody else did? And even if they did do that to me, then how am I going to react? How do I choose to react? That's what I would suggest. That's what I do. My gut, my stomach, even though I have to deal with a chronic illness, my stomach is like, it gives me like a superpower. Because if I'm in a situation and my stomach feels wrong, that's an indicator to me that I don't need to be around that energy. I don't need to be in association with that person. I don't need to be affiliated with anything that they're doing. It's a good intuition thing. As far as the herbs are concerned, a lot of people like mint. Mint is an easy go-to, but mint is very powerful, right? So you make tea with it, you can dry it, you can infuse it, you can make an oil with it, you can make a tincture with it, you can put it in tonics. If you look up the medicinal properties of mint, and then you can go from there and see if that helps with any ailments that you're dealing with, or if you just want to do it as a preventative measure, if you want to take it as a preventative measure, that's good too. Sage is a big one for me, because I will dry it and use it as a tea because it's good for anti-inflammatory issues. It reduces inflammation in the body. And but going back to my first Native people, my dad just popped up. I'm Choctaw on my dad's side. So I don't know a lot about my people on that side, but the Native people, first Native people, they burn sage. It clears energy. It's also antifungal, it's antibacterial, it's antiviral. It will stay in the air for so many hours. It'll clear the air for you as well. So you can breathe it in. That's what I do. I will burn it, I'll breathe it in, clear my body, get rid of those negative thoughts that I might have or whatever. I'm really, really struggling. I'll go to my sage. But I can use it as a tea and drink it as a tea to help with any anti-inflammatory issues or antifungal issues, case may be. I think it's really important to just do some research. I'm not an herbalist, so I don't have I have no expertise on herbalism, but I think it's really important for you to just do your own research. You know your body better than anybody else does. You know what hurts, what doesn't hurt, when it hurts, if it hurts. You know all that about yourself. So I would say just pay attention to your body, and then see what you can come up with, what herbs or what medicinal practices you can take on to help with that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that piece that you gave around just really sitting down and shutting up and being quiet, I think that is way deeper and heavier, because it's a magic in that stillness, right? And I know for me, like, that's why I put in the chat, Erica just told me that last week, like, man, sometimes you could just say Ashe and shut up. Like, you don't have to, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes.
Just
and when
put
you
Ashe on it. That's it.
Put Ashe, let it be what it's going to be.
Yes.
And that discomfort, you got to decode that. You got to be still, so you can, sometimes you're uncomfortable over here, but the pain is actually coming from over here, but you won't know that if you keep moving around, so
very good.
You can drop so many gems. But we are now into our last 10 minutes, so I do want to, we usually on the Farm Plug podcast, we have a section called Shameless Plug. And in that shameless plug, it is exactly that, where we create space for people to shamelessly plug themselves, projects that they have going on, and things like that. So, Jackie, if you could just give us like a couple of closing words, something that you want us to really walk away with and walk away from, and what should we walk away from? What should we walk away to? Just give us something from this conversation, and then shameless plug yourself, girl, because grow us is. We gotta grow as is.
Okay, I'll do my plugs real quick. Groasis Urban Garden Consulting Inc. That is my business. I do urban gardening consultations virtually right now, but I also do it in person once things are in the clear. www.growasis, GROWASIS That's my website. Find me on Facebook. I'm on IG as well under garden_stewardess. Permaculture Institute of Chicago. You can find us on Facebook there. Please join a class. I want to give homage to my elder, Baba Fred Carter, in Black Oaks in Pembroke, Illinois. They are Black farmers down there in Pembroke, Illinois. If you know anything about us down there, we strong, we deep. I want to give homage to him and Mama Jafunza Wright Carter, his wife, and their son Akeem, and all the people who are connected to them. I want to make sure I plug them as well. I see my dad here, so I'm gonna go with his classic. Don't talk to no strangers except for the ones you know. You know you, right? You know you better than you know anybody or anyone else. Go within yourself. Listen to yourself. All is well. And put some ashe on it. Ashe, when you say ashe means different things, but when you say ashe, it is done. It's almost saying like amen after a prayer. It is done. You said it, you've done it, you say ashe. Your ashe is also power, is your power as well. So those are the words I'm going to say. Just go within yourself, trust your gut. Don't think your imagination is too big, because it probably isn't. You should probably be going bigger than what you're already thinking. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
You got me over here like, okay, dream bigger, dream bigger. Like,
I'm ready to hear everybody else's plug real quick. All right, I'm gonna go now. And thank you, Binu. Her name is Binu. I'm all right. Thank you.
Yes, you were awesome.
Thank you. You guys are goddesses. Thank you. God bless. Or ashe, bless.